What's up, y'all? Your resident CityCast Chicago theater lover is back with another recommendation and world premiere. This time, I'm talking about Timeline Theater's homegrown play, Black Sunday. It follows a Texas family trying to save their farm during the Great American Dust Bowl of the 1930s. To say it was rough is an understatement. Now, while some family members want to pack up for California, some are still holding on to hope, even as one of the country's most destructive dust storms of all time is fast approaching. Take a remarkable trip back in time to witness this haunting story of climate change, migration, and family. The play is running now through June 29th. For tickets and more information, visit timelinetheater.com. Today on CityCast Chicago, for the first time in 175 years, Illinois is home to federally recognized tribal land. The reservation is in west suburban DeKalb County. And while this official designation is new, the fight to return this land to indigenous communities has been ongoing for generations. We talked to the leader of the Prairie Band Potawatomi about how historically significant this moment is. It's Monday, May 20th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. Chairperson Joseph Rupnick leads the Prairie Band Potawatomi. Chairman, welcome to CityCast Chicago. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, we are so excited to have this conversation because a lot of people may have seen the headline that for the first time in 2 centuries, Illinois is home to a federally recognized tribal nation. What does that mean in practice for the Prairie Band Potawatomi? It sounds like such a monumental moment.
Well, it is. As of April 19th at 11 o'clock, there were 15 states in the United States that did not have reservations. April 19th at 11:30, that number was reduced by 1, meaning 14 states in the United States do not have Indian reservations. So that is a huge accomplishment for the state of Illinois and for the Prairie Band Potawatomi. Now, in our minds, we have always said that there was a reservation in Illinois. This was due to the last treaty, or one of the treaties that we signed, which was in 1832, the Treaty of Chicago. In that treaty, Congress kept in 2 sections of land for who was my grandfather 4 generations removed, Chief Shabney, in DeKalb County. They never extinguished that title, or they never disestablished that reservation. So it has existed since 1832.
Take us back to that time. I mean, the 1800s. Can you tell people who was Chief Shabney and what was that conflict?
Chief Shabney was he was one of our chiefs. Again, he was my grandfather at 4 generations removed. And he was in that area. He fought alongside Tecumseh, I think one of his famous battles was during the Black Hawk Wars. He was kind of tired of fighting. He was about 60 years old. I think most of those guys were just looking to survive and didn't want to join that conflict with Black Hawk. So trying to make peace with the settlers, he actually warned some of the settlers that Black Hawk was coming through and asked them to leave the area. They didn't heed his words, and consequently they got killed. Because of his actions, I think a lot of the residents in Illinois wanted him to be a friend. They wanted him to remain. I think he had a good lobbyist, which is why Congress kept that land in for him in treaty for his family and his descendants to hold forever.
Can you establish for us, as people come to read this news and understand, like you say, you've always recognized that there has been tribal lands, there has been a reservation in Illinois. When it says that the federal government is holding land in a trust for the Prairie Band, what exactly does that mean?
That means that they recognize that that is a reservation. And when we filed our trust application for that almost a year ago, and it was finally signed in April 19th, they recognized, or they reaffirmed, that that is a reservation and that we, the Prairie Band Potawatomi, are the successors of interest for that reservation. While the family was fighting for 200 years to get that land recognized, the major push came about 35, 40 years ago, where the nation petitioned the Department of Interior, and there were two Solicitor General's opinions to reaffirm that that is a reservation and that it does belong to Prairie Band Potawatomi.
I mean, why is it so important that the tribe gets this federal recognition for people who don't understand?
We are a federally recognized tribe, but part of that is upholding the federal government to its treaty obligations and its trust responsibility for sovereign nations. That's what a lot of folks don't understand, is that tribal nations are considered sovereign nations. This is reaffirmed by the fact in the U.S. Constitution, Article 6, that states all treaties entered into by Congress are considered supreme law of the land. Congress only enters into those treaties with sovereign nations. So they recognize that tribal nations were sovereign nations, entered into treaties with those nations, and it is our job or our responsibility to make sure that they uphold those treaty responsibilities. We, the Potawatomi people, have the most treaties signed out of any tribal nation in the United States. We have 44 treaties signed with the federal government. Sadly to say, every one of them have been broken in one form of fashion or another.
Yeah. The tribe had largely settled in Kansas in the decades following the Removal Act of 1830. There's a reservation there. Why is that fundamentally different, though, from living in, owning property on your ancestral land, which people don't know the story was stolen from your great grandfather, right? He went to visit family members in Kansas and came back to that land having been stolen. Why is it so important that this ancestral land be returned?
For us, that was our homelands. And Congress carved out those sections of land that they were supposed to be held forever for his family and his descendants. That was the agreement that we made with the federal government. That Treaty of Chicago, we ceded 5 million acres of land to the U.S. government. And as you stated correctly, President Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act, removing all Indians east of the Mississippi to the west. In 1846, we signed the treaty using the money that we received from the sale of the 5 million acres of land in Illinois, plus the money that we received for selling land in Council Bluffs, Iowa. And we purchased a reservation in Kansas, a 30 by 30 square mile reservation there. 1850, once the tribe was removed and settled into Kansas, Shawnee came down, visited the family, visited the tribe, made sure everybody was settled in. And upon his return, the General Land Office in the state of Illinois allowed squatters to sell his land because they claimed he had abandoned it. Well, back then, you couldn't make that trip in 8 hours like I can today. I imagine on horseback and carriage, it'd take you 2 or 3 weeks anyway. And then making sure that everybody was settled in, I imagine it was probably a 2-3 month process.
Yo, for everybody listening, I wanted to remind y'all of something. The City of Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection Office of Labor Standards oversees Chicago's landmark labor laws through engagement and enforcement. What does that mean for you? Well, Chicago's labor laws include minimum wage, paid sick leave, fair work week, wage theft, contracts for domestic care workers, and anti-retaliation. And even more, on July 1st, 2024, the following ordinances and update will go into effect. Number 1, Chicago Paid Leave and Paid Sick and Safe Leave Ordinance. Number 2, a 5-year phase out of the sub-minimum wage for tipped workers. And number 3, the annual minimum wage increase. Remember, the Office of Labor Standards processes complaints, conducts investigations, mediates disputes, directs settlement proceedings, issues violations, and if necessary, seeks licensure discipline against employers. For more information, visit www.chicago.gov/labor standards. And if you need to file a complaint, call 311 for Chicago labor law violations. You've been working at this for so long. What was your reaction when you finally got this news?
I think it was kind of ironic because by treaty, Congress was supposed to keep, the federal government was supposed to keep this land in our family forever. It was sold, and then, folks were allowed to live on it. And the ironic thing is that 200 years later, I conveyed the title back to the federal government for them to hold this land again for us in trust. Emotionally, for me, this is something that the family, the tribe, the nation has been fighting for 200 years. And we're thankful that the federal government upheld its treaty responsibility or its obligations. Really, words couldn't describe the feeling that after 200 years, we, the Prairie Band Potawatomi Nation, was able to reclaim land that we were removed from 3 states away. No other tribe has been able to do that.
So what's next? Do you know yet how the land will be used?
Right now, we got to look at all of our options. This really opens the door for us for this land to be held into trust because that gives the nation some protections. We need to look at possibly doing a feasibility study. 20 years ago, when we first considered doing that, and just to let everybody know, we repurchased again the land that was held into trust. So it wasn't given to us by the federal government.
Right, you purchased the land privately. Why did that have to happen?
Well, because it was held by individual landowners. And while we still claim that it was a reservation, we paid a large sum of money for the 130 acres that we repurchased because folks know that was our ancestral lands, and tribes want to do everything that they can to regain those lands that were lost.
So throughout this entire, 2 centuries, that land had been sort of resettled, had changed hands. Are there still people currently living there? What does that process look like?
Right now, there are currently 30 residents, individuals that own property on the reservation proper. About 80 acres is held by the county of DeKalb as a forest preserve. And then the remaining portion of the reservation actually is part of the Shabana State Park.
Got it.
Right now, there is a bill working its way through Springfield, 4718, where the state recognizes the injustice that was done to the Potawatomi people and are looking to convey the entire state park over to Prairie Band Potawatomi.
I mean, a lot of this is, frankly, probably new for non-Indigenous Chicagoans. What other federal or state legislation are you all waiting on?
Well, that state bill 4718, that one there, conveying the entire state park over to Prairie Band Potawatomi. We also have a bill in the Senate that was sponsored by Senator Moran, co-sponsored by Senator Duckworth, along with Senator Marshall, which would actually clear the title for those individual landowners currently on the reservation proper now. There's a federal law called the Non-Intercourse Act, or some say that it's the Indian Non-Intercourse Act. And in that act, Congress reserved the right to establish or disestablish reservations. Without an act from Congress, those reservations are considered Indian land, and any sale of those is essentially illegal. So while some of that land was sold off long ago, those folks that have those homes there currently have what is commonly referred to as clouded title. So our federal legislation would clear their titles, and it would allow them to pass that land or their homes down to their children or whoever else they care to do it to. And if they decide to sell, we would hope that they would allow the nation the right of first refusal and allow us to at least purchase it at appraised value.
Yeah. I mean, this is a lot of bureaucratic process for something that is essential to your nation and culture. I mean, what are those next steps for you in this ongoing process?
Well, really, the hard work begins because now we have to work with the state. We have to recognize that there are some laws that need to be changed. There are consultations that need to be made with the different state departments, recognizing the fact that there is a federally recognized tribe located within its boundaries, and that we are asking for consultation on all matters that happen within the state, specifically those that concern Native Americans.
I mean, there is so much, let's keep it real, baseline education that still needs to happen around indigenous and native history and issues, especially in the Midwest. We've just seen legislation recently that, you know, mandates that it be taught in schools. Just having this land and having a federally recognized nation in the state give you hope on that front, that not only that we're moving in the right direction, but that we're going to teach substantive indigenous history.
You know, Prairie Band sponsored or helped support that bill that was passed. We've always felt that, you know, history should be taught, and we can't go back and change it. We know that there are injustices throughout history, and we only hope that if we allow folks to understand, study that those same mistakes would not be repeated in the future.
Chairperson Joseph Rupnick from the Prairie Band Potawatomi, thank you so much for making time for us today.
You bet. Thank you.
Before we let you go, remember to get the latest headlines, a packed calendar of events, and check out some cool neighborhood guides. Head over to our website, chicago.citycast.fm. And we'll send you all of these things to your inbox every morning, Monday through Friday for free. All you got to do, sign up for our daily newsletter, Hey Chicago. Something you can only get on the podcast, some good news. One of my absolute favorite street festivals is back this weekend in Pilsen. Mole de Mayo is packed with great food, music. They even put on a whole ass Lucha Libre event in the middle of the streets. It's a can't miss for me every single year, and you should check the show notes for more information. As always, we appreciate you for listening. We're going to be back bright and early tomorrow. We'll talk to you then. Peace.